Yes, we're back with another rider, another episode. Today we have a gentleman called John, and he's going to educate us about the retail business, men's clothing and life in Thailand. So nice to have you here today, John.
Thank you, Simon. Really appreciate this. You're a great driver.
How long were you in the retail industry for?
Well, I did that for 20 years. So, in fact, when I had left school without, the A-levels I needed to get myself to university, I went into actually men's tailoring at the time and worked within that. Very quickly became one of their youngest managers, and that's the time that Carnaby Street and everything was kicking off. So actually I transferred over into the fashion field and worked with fashion shops, a company called Take 6 that you're too young to remember, but was quite famous at the time, and had shops all over the West End and King's Road, and I was a manager with them, managed one of the Oxford Street shops. And then one of the directors broke away from that, opened up his own business. I worked with them for a period, and then he got into a complete financial mess. And it was at that point I made a decision to actually buy the company, which I did with a partner of mine, and we ran that successfully for 2 or 3 years. And then we hit the point where interest rates hit about 15% at the time, and as I was saying to you earlier, it was crazy because I had shops with great clothing in them, but it wasn't cheap, it was really high fashion. And people were coming into the shop and say, "Oh, this stuff is amazing," and the trouble is I can't even afford to pay my mortgage at the moment. So it was pretty crazy. So I learned one of the lessons of business at that time, Simon, and that is if you borrow money for a business, you may think you own it, but actually the people you're borrowing the money from really own the business. And one Monday morning, my bank manager told me that he owned my business and he was taking it back from me. So that was a bit of a shock, but I picked myself up, dusted myself down, and if we jump forward a year or two, by that stage, I actually had helped a friend open up a restaurant doing Thai food in pubs, which in 1993 there really were very few pubs. They're all over the place now, but very few pubs doing that. So that ended up being really, really successful. And that's the Thai Connection, my partner's Thai. And we turned that into a standalone restaurant in Crouch End, which was very, very successful. It's still there today, but I sold it to staff members about 7 years back.
You sold it to the staff members?
Yeah.
They must have been happy.
They were. I'm not sure they were so happy when lockdown kicked in and everything like that. But
they said they'd probably go, you!
No, I knew it was coming, But it was good for them because it meant that they had a ready-made business. Neither of them had run their own business before, so they had already successful restaurant business. It's quite funny if you go to the website for it. It's still got myself, my partner on there. They didn't change the branding or anything. They just literally
changed ownership.
Yeah, I think we sold, on the Friday, and by Monday they opened up and they were the owners of it. So as I say, they've done well out of it, thankfully. As I say, I also opened up a late night bar in Crouch End as well, and that was that was interesting. Sometimes in a good way, but sometimes not in a very good way. So
how so?
Well, the challenges you get with late, it was a late night bar, so you'd get flooded out late on the evening with a lot of kids that couldn't really hold their liquor and stuff. So we had security guards and everything, but even still, it wasn't so great. So it was quite funny. So the restaurant was listed once by the Evening Standard as one of the top 100 restaurants in London, and the bar at one time was on an online poll was branded as being the worst bar in London. So I simultaneously owned one of the top 100 restaurants and the worst bar in London.
What's the name of the restaurant so people can frequent?
Yeah, the restaurant is O's Thai Cafe. It's literally just by the clock tower in Crouch End, and it's Peter and Sal that now lovely people, and they'll look after you. Food's still very good. Sal was one of our chefs, so she took over when she took over. She knew exactly what to do there. So so it's really good. The bar is now a block of flats, so it just shows the way
as it goes.
As it goes, for sure.
So how did you end up in Thailand?
Yeah, well, as I say, my partner's Thai, so that was a connection. So I started going there, reasonably frequently, and then back in about, I think, 2001, bought a small apartment just on the river in the centre of Bangkok, which is, Bangkok's a crazy city. Have you ever been there?
No, I want to. As ex-military, I should go there.
Yeah.
I was the guy who taught me how to drive a motorbike. He is ex-military, and he said the Thai people call British ex-military, lost souls.
Oh, really?
So I thought, I'm not sure if I should go there, because I don't want to be considered
Well,
as that,
that's a
because that's a deep saying. If someone calls you a lost soul,
Well,
because they just do crazy stuff.
yeah, well, that's a few of the Brits have got that reputation out there, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
so Bangkok's a 24-hour. It's a really mad city, very bad pollution. But where our apartment is, it's right on the river, and it's surrounded by like temples and local housing. So you're in the centre of Bangkok, but you're in a very quiet, much quieter environment. In fact, it's actually not traffic noise that troubles us. It's the noise of boats on the river. So it's a much nicer sort of situation there. And so I'm fortunate enough now to be able to spend 2 or 3 months the year out there. To get
Are they
away from
like
the winter.
skiff boats? What kind of boats are they?
Well, they use it still for sort of serious transportation. So they have these barges. So there's like 4 barges in a row, and they have these little boats that pull these 4 huge barges, and they're literally just an engine, the boat that pulls them. They're like tugs, and they make a lot of noise. So it's okay, it's fine. When you get used to it, you're used to anything. But
I take it there's a big expat Brit community there.
Yeah, Bangkok's really international. I mean, it's a bit like London, and that's the beauty of it, because you can get great Thai food there, street food. It costs you peanuts, and also you can stay or eat in 5-star hotels or whatever. But you can also get every sort of international cuisine you'd like there, and there's so many people from all sorts of different countries there. The condominium that I live in has got about 300 apartments there, and there's so many different
Really?
countries. Yeah, it's a
Well,
big
that's
place.
one block.
One block, yeah. Then
That's
it's got
a skyscraper, yeah.
It's 31, 32 floors. It's got like 2 huge pools in it. It's got gymnasium, sauna, pool room. It's got its own boat service to take you up the river, because we're sort of technically, it's a bit like being on the South Bank. We're all sort of on the wrong side of the river, and so that helps you get there to where you want to be. And so it's got great facilities in there, and it's got guards and stuff like that, and a proper reception area, a bit like you would at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great environment.
Okay.
It didn't cost me a lot of money when I bought it. It's worth a bit more now, as all property is. But
Can we ask how much it costs to buy?
probably, we really took advantage of 2 factors. One, property values had gone down in Thailand. There was a property crash, so we were buying at that time. So we were bought the apartment that we had in Thai money. It was over 5 million baht, and we bought it for 3.2 about 3 or 4 years after it had been built. So instead of going down, instead of going up, the value of properties had gone down. And whereas now it's about 42 baht to the pound or something like that, it was something like 75 baht to the pound when we bought it. So it probably cost us in a region of 45 grand now, and it's worth obviously like 3 or 4 times that maybe. But that same sort of apartment in London would cost you a fortune. Imagine be having an apartment on the South Bank, on the river, with a river view. How much would that cost you?
And the whole gym and everything.
Yeah,
You've got a lot going on for yourself.
Exactly. All the facilities you get there as well. So it's a great environment. Really is good.
How was adapting to I know your wife's a Thai, but how was it for you adapting to the Thai culture? Living there?
It was okay. The Thais are very polite, very pleasant people. I'm hopeless with languages, so I've never been very good, but my partner and also all my friends there speak English a lot. They've mainly been English educated, and then the Thais are actually getting better with English now. At one time it wasn't a compulsory language in school, but it now is, so it's easier out there. Culture, as you say, that's different. It's if you want to be respectful, it's nice to get an idea of what you should do and what you shouldn't do a little bit, but the Thais are so polite they normally won't correct you, even if you do something that wouldn't be seen as appropriate, if you know what I mean. They're really nice people. I mean, Thailand's got a bit of a reputation, as the British do out in Thailand, but that's really because of just certain areas, which were areas like Pattaya that developed because the the US fleet, their situation there, so the sailors off duty, they needed somewhere to go, and that's how that came up. But these are just small areas. The rest of Thailand is just
so
not like
Bangkok being the capital.
Right.
And like any capital, it's got its interesting area, colourful area.
Exactly.
But when I think of Bangkok, I think of Locked Up Abroad.
Right.
You know, that show?
Right, yeah. I think I saw the odd episode of that. And that's the thing, people do crazy stuff out there and they do get into trouble. They've actually now just recently deregulated cannabis out there, but up to very recently, if you were caught with cannabis, I mean, that could be it. It would be, you'd be thrown in jail, and unless you could find a way of buying a way out, that was the rest of your life gone. And Thai jails, I'm sure British jails aren't very pleasant, but Thai jails would be even worse. But yeah, not a recommended thing to do. And that's the thing. So because they are very easygoing or whatever, that some foreigners just take it to the extreme and go right over the top, do stuff they never dream of doing in their own country. And sometimes you don't get away with it, But generally speaking, as I say, particularly if you go to the islands down south, where a lot of the kids go there and have their full moon parties and do crazy stuff that, as I say, you'll never get away with here.
We're coming to the end of the journey. It's been a great interview. What would your advice be for someone going to live in Thailand?
Now that is interesting. Find good friends and make sure they are friends. Some of the mistakes that British guys particularly do, they find a girl that seems to be a good relationship, but then if the money runs out, they find the relationship's no longer there. Obviously, the other thing to be aware of is you've got to ideally have an income from the UK that you can spend out there, because if you go out there, let's say I've got a friend that's like a builder and whatever, and he realizes if he went out there and if he tried to work out there, he would get paid a fraction of what he would do in this country. So the ideal thing is make your money in the UK, spend it out there in Thailand, and you can have a very good time on a fraction of what it would cost you to do in this country,
And when it comes to the retail game, last question.
Yeah.
What have you learnt about the retail industry that you wish you knew when you had started?
Oh, but apart from not getting into it, I think that probably would be the big thing. Retail is challenging. I mean, when I got involved in it, that it was could have a small shop as we did and make money from it. Now it's been completely overtaken by the big boys. So that is the real challenge, I think, with retail nowadays. Same with restaurants. It can be quite challenging. But I mean, I enjoyed what I did. I had 20 good years working retail, and really don't regret any of that. 20 good years working in restaurants, and as I say, I've got other business interests I run now as well. I've been working with a company for over 20 years as well with that. So it's have more than one string to your bow. I think it's a great idea for anyone from that perspective.
Well, thanks a lot for that, and we wish you well.
Indeed, Simon. Wish you well. Thank you very much. Okay, for looking after me, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to whoever's listening to this.
Okay. We hope that episode enhanced your life. We post an interview every day as well as vlogging on our social media channels. Don't forget to subscribe to get our latest episode.